Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of your challenge, Discover Your Purpose. How's it going? I would love to know. So DM me, send me a little message or comment below, and let me know how things are progressing for you. Days 1 and 2, we spent really excavating to discover what is your purpose. And by today, maybe you've had these really profound aha moments, and you're like, yes, I have had confirmation. I know what my purpose is. And then the resistance sets in, right? Or maybe you came into this experience and felt like, yeah, you were pretty sure of your purpose, but you've been dealing with the anxiety and the resistance that comes from actually living it. So that's why today, that is the topic and focus for today, is how do we meet that resistance and anxiety that comes when we're looking at taking the next steps and living our purpose, as well as how do we overcome caring so much about what everybody else thinks and about all their opinions about us living our own purpose. So let's dive in. But before we do, make sure that you have your workbook, you have some quiet space, and that this is a good time for you. I love this quote by Pablo Picasso, and that's why I put it in your workbook, that the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. Yeah, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and then the purpose of life is to give it away. Then why is it that it's so hard to give it away, to actually live the purpose that we've been given in this life? So make sure that you have your workbook, and you can even write in the space provided any of the reflections from this video. Today's soul method focus is unleash, right? Whenever we feel resistance, we contract, we hold back, we diminish. And this is an opportunity to stop playing so small, worried about what everybody else thinks and all the good opinions, and literally unleash, allow yourself to not be tied down as you've been in the past. So keep that in mind. But what I'd love to do is share some of the main reasons why we seem to get so caught up in resistance. But let's begin with defining resistance, right? So, defining resistance, that's the attempt to prevent something. How cool is that? I wish I had known that that was the actual definition. The attempt to prevent something. Like, that's resistance. I don't want that. I want that. I don't want them. I want them. I mean, like, but that's it in a nutshell, right? So let that land. But it's the attempt to prevent something. And the number one form of resistance is anything that requires us to change, especially if you've been feeling stuck. So when we are away from living our purpose, not in alignment, not connected to the soul self that's just saying, hey, this is the pathway for you, then we get overly comfortable. And what occurs is we get stuck. And it's kind of like quicksand. So it gets harder and harder and harder the less momentum we have. And then all the way to stuckness, no momentum. And so that's that number one form of resistance, is being asked to change something. Like being asked to step up into your highest potential for your highest good and for the highest good of this planet. I mean, wow, that's going to require you to very likely change the way that you're living life. Even in a small way, there will be a requirement to change something. And that we meet resistance because making the change is not always easy. Living our purpose requires, as we dig deep into ourselves, that we take a good hard look at our life and see where we've been stuck, where we've been out of alignment, and grow in those areas, right? Continue our personal development and really look for the opportunities to delve deeper into ourselves, all in the name of being true to yourself. So let's look at some ways to address the resistance. Number one, it's not what you think it should be. So our purpose is straightforward, right? Let it be easy. But our ego can get a hold of it and think it should be much bigger. That was one of those myths that we've busted, that purpose has to be earth shattering. And when it's not, then the ego starts to like play games with you, casting doubt and making you feel bad about like, whoa, this is my purpose. It's just this. It's straight line. And and so then what we do is we back away and we either ignore it or we let the ego make the decisions and the choices for us. And we allow the ego to make up the stories, and we believe the story of what the ego says our purpose should be. And that's where that idea of like, oh, if I just follow my bliss and follow my passions and what makes me come alive, that's the ego saying follow those sparkly things, like go for the shiny things. But we learned that that's not it. We find our purpose and then our passion supports it, but not passion driving the purpose. But the ego, when it gets a hold of us and we feed it, all of a sudden it's just going to want to always look for the shiny things and cause confusion to us. And then we step further back and away from what our actual true purpose is. The second way to address the resistance is letting go of perfection. So I'm a recovering perfectionist. I know many of you are too. And our standards just get too high, all right, as perfectionists, because it's like an impossible standard to meet. It's not even just too high. But when perfectionism kicks in, we get paralyzed by our own high standards, and we know what needs to be done in order to live our purpose and move through the resistance. But we think that we aren't good enough to do it. And we think that to begin, we have to get it just right. So then we don't begin. And that's where that play of perfectionism, procrastination, partner together, which is a terrible cocktail. And I've been there, right? But when doubt just starts to rear its ugly head and we think we can't take those steps unless they're perfect, then we don't take the first step and the next step. So just like when we're journaling, and you've heard me say this, allow yourself to be messy, right? As a writer, like it's always about a messy first draft and things crossed out and what have you. And it's better to get started than to withhold the effort and stay in that place of resistance, waiting until it's the right time, the perfect time, the right circumstances, because that's never going to happen. So if you're in a situation that a change is being required of you to maybe move, maybe change jobs, in order to more fully align and live your purpose, and I've done that. I've moved to the other side of the world. I mean, to do that, I have removed toxic relationships from my life just so I could change and live my purpose, because those things were forms of resistance and they were dragging me down. So if you feel like you have to get it just right, what I suggest is that you write down 5-6 steps of what you think you need to be doing. And then really sit with, what if you made a 51% effort and took that first step? That's different than saying, okay, you don't know what you're doing and just go for it. It's saying all you need to do is recruit 51% of the cells in your body to believe in this first step, to believe that you are worthy of living your purpose. It's not to eradicate the doubt or the fear, to move it through it anyway. And if you can recruit 51% of the constituency of yourself, then we begin. And as soon as you begin, momentum is built. When we're not moving at all, it's much more difficult. Now, the third way to address resistance is, this is what happens. We can't see a way to do it. We're like, I want to do this. I know this is my purpose. I know that this is aligned with my soul self. I can feel it, in every cell of my body, but I don't know how to do it. And the gap between where you are and where your purpose is can sometimes seem to be challenging. And it seems like it's a really vast space from here to there. But it's never as big or vast as what your mind makes up that it is. And the first question that we tend to ask ourselves when we feel pretty confident about, like, yes, this is my purpose, how? How do I do this? And is the right question how? Just think about that. Is the right question how? Is that the first question? And or is there another question? Because if you start with how and you go into the analytical mind, then all of a sudden you're going to come up with a million reasons why it's not possible. You're just going to analyze it completely to death. And so I really want you to think about when you meet that, like, how do I do this? Can you ask any other question first? Where do I do this? When do I do this? What is it that I'm doing exactly? I mean, there's a lot of other better questions than just going straight into the analytical mind. And this is why, if you start there first, it moves you completely out of possibility. And we always want to start anything from possibility. That's abundance mindset. And to believe that it's possible then makes it possible. You know, Robin Sharma says that everything is created twice, first in the workshop of the mind and then in our reality. And this is also Einsteinian theory, right? So starting in possibility allows you to begin, because that's, the mind is broad and you feel the energy and the support. But if you start with why it won't work, the how, then you question, are the risks worth taking? You know, like all of the details, and don't sweat that first. First, just begin, right? And then another key way of resistance is that we won't fit in anymore. If you actually start to live in alignment with your heart, aligned with your highest potential, with your highest good, then will you outgrow some people? Will you not fit in to the situation that you've been living in, whether at home or at work? And again, it goes back to this question of identity. When we're not true to our identity, we're playing small, we're pretending, we're hiding, we're limiting, we're like constantly like a boxer in the ring, like, okay, bobbing and weaving, different people, different situations, what can they handle? How much of me can they handle right now? And my goodness, that's all so exhausting. But equally then, when we accept this is who I am, and you want your insides and outsides to match, and that then leads to you just feeling so tuned in and tapped in and turned on to your purpose, then you wonder, will I fit in? Will I fit in? And it's normal to feel scared that you won't fit in anymore where you've been. But there are times in our life that we need to fit out. There are times that we're not meant to fit in and conform just for the good of those around us. Because if we live our purpose and we make other people uncomfortable, then, oh, we feel bad, right? But people that really love us will honor your purpose. People that really respect you will honor your purpose. People that are not in their ego will celebrate you living your purpose. Those that are living from abundance mindset and not scarcity mindset will support you and help you and be great resources for you to live your purpose. So this being worried about what other people think and whether you're going to belong or you're going to fit in with them, or what will they do? The thing is, no matter what, you can never control other people or other circumstances. The only thing you can control are your own thoughts and your own actions. And that's it. So even if you did everything perfectly and you tried to conform and stay held back from your purpose and just stay this miserable, right? not fully living, just having a half life, because half is better than none. But if you do that, just so other people feel better and you don't make them uncomfortable, it will never be enough. They will want more and more and more and more until you're not living just a half life, you're living a 2% of a life. And that's not healthy. That's not good enough for you. Live a full life. You deserve that. And when you do that, then you can expand more fully into your purpose as well. But those that really do love you unconditionally and they are in a healthy place, they then will always support you in you living your purpose. So there's nothing you can do to change someone's mind not to support you or to feel bent out of shape that you want to live more fully aligned with your life purpose. Yep, there's always going to be those people, and there's nothing you can do to change their minds. People have to change their own minds. All you can do is be responsible for yourself. And that's plenty, right? Like that's plenty of work right there. And a couple other things that can play into that is we can think, living my purpose isn't practical. And then if we go to somebody to ask for advice that's not living their own purpose, then they can convince us like, yes, that's true. It's not practical. It's going to take change and effort and you shouldn't do it. The opposite of happiness is actually being too comfortable, right? Apathy. So be careful who you heed advice in your life, because that person that doesn't live by their own purpose and is flatlining their life and advising you do the same and just live with a 2% of a life. Yeah, look at the quality of life that they're leading right now, you know? So it may not always be practical, but your life purpose is not a job description. It may not always be practical, but your life purpose is not a job description. So let that sink in. It doesn't always follow that you're going to be able to make a living or pay your bills from living your purpose. In some spiritual practices, there's two avenues. One is your vocation that pays the bills and allows you to live your lifestyle, and then your purpose. That there's two, like we have two arms. And sometimes those are completely joined, right? But like not always. And that's okay. Not everyone has a purpose that is also making the money, and doesn't even have to be that way. And then the next part is when we're worried about what other people think, we're worried underneath that. If you like dig out, like, what is that about? We're really worried about being alone. That worry about what they think of you living your purpose is that you're just going to end up all alone. And we worry that people won't understand us anymore if we're living our purpose, that they won't get us, the fear that then that it's going to lead to separation and lead us into isolation or loneliness. And even we're afraid that people don't want to see us as happy as we could be. And so then, we'll just isolate ourselves for fear that people will get upset if they see us happy. I mean, just consider how ridiculous all of that just sounded. And yet we've all gone through those stories. But it's just that. When you are true to your identity and living your purpose, that's what fosters a deeper sense of belonging, and where you find your people, find your tribe, and find your community. And it's the opposite. It's not that going to lead us, purpose isn't going to lead us down this lonely path. It's going to lead you into greater support and greater resources all the way around. So these are some of those things that I just wanted to share with you for you to think about. And just know that the resistance that you feel from, all of these standard things that, we can't see a way to do it, or it requires change, it might not be practical, we're afraid we won't fit in anymore, we're afraid we might end up alone, our standards are way too high, it may not always be easy to live your purpose, or it just seems too big. It is scary. It is scary. But I come back time and time again that it's not that we get over our fear. It's that even if we're afraid of some of these forms of resistance, which are all just little tests, but we move through the fear anyway, because the world needs what you have and what you can bring, right, to offer. The world needs that. And us individually just holding ourselves back from bringing to light all that we might offer to the world is not going to make the world greater and better. It's only going to diminish the world, right? And this is a time in our lives, with the state of things in the world, where we all are being called to step up and step forward and move forward into the light and bring what it is that is your gift and share it. Going back to that initial quote from Picasso, right? That the meaning of life is to find out what your gift is, and the purpose of life is to share it. And that's exactly what I'd love to see you do. So let's do some journaling. Get out your journal or get these papers out in your workbook and write down what you know of your purpose and what is true about your purpose. What do you know of your purpose so far? Write anything down that you know of your purpose from the cumulative effect of these other exercises. And what is true about your purpose? Write anything down that you know about your purpose. And you can highlight, check, circle. What is true? What is true about your purpose? I know for me that my purpose is intertwined with my superhero power of resiliency. I know that. I have no doubt in that. I may have doubts about some other things, but that 100% crystal clear. I know that's true. And then the next journaling question: what new truths do you need to believe about your identity and purpose in order to move forward? What new truths do you need to believe about your identity and your purpose in order to move forward? What new truths do you need to believe about your identity and your purpose in order to move forward? If you've received messaging that you can't do things by yourself, that you're too fragile, that you're not strong enough, that people are dangerous out there, that the world's out to get you, then is a truth that you need to understand that you are capable, that you are independent. Are those two truths? If you've been receiving all this other stuff, is it true that you are capable? Is it true that you can depend upon yourself, that you are independent, that you feel safe with yourself, that you trust yourself, that you trust your intuition? What new truths do you need to believe about your identity and your purpose in order to move forward? This is where we see this as some mindset hacks. And so much of the time, what's limiting us from actually living our purpose and moving through the resistance and stop caring about what other people think it's our own mindset. And we have to crush those places where it's toxic and self-limiting, and just change the dialogue, change the internal dialogue, adjust our own mindset. The next question: what is your greatest anxiety about living your purpose? What keeps you up at night about living your purpose? Is it that you think that part of your purpose requires you to move or to travel, but you're worried about that? Then write that down. What is your greatest anxiety about living your purpose? What is your greatest anxiety? Or maybe it's a lot of little anxieties about living your purpose. Just like, what are your greatest anxieties about being true to yourself? Because remember, living your purpose is being who you are. The next question: is there anything that you need to say no to so that you can say yes to living your purpose? Is there anything that you need to say no to in order to say yes to living your purpose? No to unhealthy boundaries, no to toxic influences, no to those people that drag you down, don't believe in you, and make you question and second guess everything. What else? What do you say no to in order to say yes to living your purpose? Again, is it no to living in a certain place? No to a particular type of job environment? I've had clients where they've been with me for 200 hours and their job has been as a bartender, and they're with lots of toxic people and the hours are really hard on them, and yet they're not to drink, to eat really healthy, to practice meditation and yoga every day and live a holistic lifestyle, and wondering why, like, it's so hard to move forward when they're still stuck in this very toxic, heavy energy environment. And even though during the day they can go and like be their best selves, and then at night they go back into the dark, and then the day it's like just stretching a wire hanger back and forth, it's going to break. Like, it's not a sustainable situation. At some point you have to say no to some things in order to say yes to living your purpose. And as soon as you do, all of a sudden even more great things open up for you. Last question: how would you describe why you care about what others think about you living your purpose? How would you describe why you care about what other people think about you living your purpose? How would you describe the why you care about what other people think about you giving yourself the freedom to live your purpose? It's a powerful question, isn't it? How would you describe why you care? As a people pleaser, often I would go back and see, like, oh, why I care is because I just want people to like me. That's it. And if it's 99 people but one doesn't, then that's not good enough. So if in the past, when I let myself get overwhelmed by that, that was why I cared. Is I just wanted 100% of the people to like me and approve of me and validate me 100% of the time. And that's impossible, because that will never be the case if either you're honest or other people are all honest, right? So if you're not true to yourself and you're adapting, adjusting, limiting, hiding, pretending just to make people approve you, then that's not a sustainable formula, right? So how would you describe why you care? But you want them all to still like you. You want them to validate you and say that you're a good person and they approve you. But if you are going to be true to yourself, you will undoubtedly disappoint some people. If you are going to live your purpose, you will undoubtedly disappoint some people. If you prioritize your happiness more than theirs, you will undoubtedly let people down. But it is your life. It is your life. And it is your purpose to be lived. They have their own, enough for everybody. So hold that to heart. Take a big breath in. Open mouth, exhale. That was a deep, deep session. Do you feel that? That was like, we went right for it. But I'm so happy you're here, and I would love to know how this is working for you and what you are beginning to reveal to yourself that's been long concealed. So from my heart to your heart, to the heart of the universe, may you love yourself, love your day, and love your life.